Welcome everyone. One moment while I just get my guests up on the stage. Won't be long. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat bar on the side. In the meantime, we'd love to know who we're talking to.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi Vienna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Stacey?
Good.
Excellent.
Almost got Alex there, and we're just waiting for Bing to come on stage as well.
There we go.
Hi Alex.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Cool. Okay, we've almost got Bing up on camera too. Oh yeah.
Hi everyone.
Perfect. Okay, we've got everyone on the call today. Welcome everyone, and thank you for everyone for attending this afternoon. We've got a great chat talking to Alex from Apprento all about sales and how you can up your sales as a real estate agent, or just in sales in general if you're interested. So we're talking all about how to up your game, and if you're interested in switching up your sales strategy or just want to learn some tips and tricks, this one will be a really great one for you. So quickly starting off, my name's Stacey. I'm the Sales and Marketing Coordinator here at Relab, and I've got Vienna.
Hi.
And Alex with me. Vienna and Bing are our customer success specialists here at Relab, and we've got Alex from Apprento. Just a couple of admin things. Lou from Relab is in the chat. If you've got any technical issues or sound issues or anything like that, she can answer them. And pop any questions you've got throughout the webinar in that chat bar, and we'll get to them at the end. Cool, so we'll start off right into it. Alex, please let us know a bit about your background just to start off and what you do. I just want to add that we are pretty excited to have you on board just because you've co-founded a startup, and Relab's a startup as well. So we're just quite excited about that, and to hear your sales tips as well. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks for having me on. Where to start? Well, look, obviously my background's in sales, and I work predominantly in the technology space across a mixture of startups and bigger companies, and then back to startup, and then have now founded a startup. And after I left kind of corporate work, I ended up doing a lot of sales coaching for a couple of years, and I've worked with just over 120 organizations in the last 2 years. And then more recently founded Apprento. And Apprento, we're a sales acceleration platform. We grow sales by growing salespeople, and we do that in 2 ways. We create pathways for young, inexperienced people into professional sales careers, predominantly in the technology industry right now, and then train them up whilst they're there in roles to get them performing faster and better. And then we also ramp up the performance of existing sales teams. I've worked with everyone from like early stage pre-revenue startups up to big corporates like Vodafone, and probably coached hundreds and hundreds of reps now. I'm not really sure. I've probably lost count. But yeah, it's really good to be here.
Yeah, that's really cool. Cool. So kicking off my questions right into it, what is your top advice for a salesperson, or a little bit specifically to a real estate agent wanting to switch up their sales strategy?
I think the thing that separates whether you're selling real estate or anything, the really good salespeople from okay salespeople is curiosity. So like really good salespeople ask a lot of questions. They ask good questions, but they also ask a lot of questions. And like when I'm coaching people, I often talk about like you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. So that's kind of the ratio in terms of like when you're in a conversation with someone, you shouldn't be speaking more than them. They should be, you should be listening more than speaking. So yeah, that's probably my number one big bit of advice for anyone. And I remember I gave that advice once to a sales rep who'd been quite experienced, and he'd been struggling for a couple of years, and then his name was Chad, and then he started doing this, and he just kind of was more conscious of how long he spoke and how many questions he asked, and then suddenly he got like a 200% quarter the next quarter just by switching that up. and asking more questions. So yeah, that's probably number one.
Perfect. I like that analogy there.
I got a question for like Alex, because I've never been a salesperson in my whole career life. In the past 15 years, I just do marketing stuff and operation. And my very first sales role is in Relab. And then I start to deal with all the sales experts. They are as agents. They're all experts in this industry. And I like to just find some course to live up my skill. But unfortunately, I think I just can't find any like major in the colleges to tell you how to sell.
You can't find any. Sorry, say that last bit again. The connection just went a little bit funny.
Yeah, so can't find any like courses. Or,
right.
Yeah.
Course, yeah. So yeah, it's hard to figure out because there's a lot out there, right? There's a lot of awesome stuff and there's a lot of not so awesome stuff as well. So I think one of the best things you can go away and do if you're like wanting to learn about sales is go read a book. There's 2 books actually I recommend. The Transparency Sale by Todd Capone and Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. If you go away and read those 2 books, that will give you a really good grounding and a really good place to start.
Cool, thank you.
Cool. I can see Bing making all the notes.
Making notes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Another thing is like it doesn't really to be a person, a person to become a sales, or everybody can become a sales.
It's a really good question. It depends how deep you want me to go on this, because we've done a lot of analysis on this too with our software partner. My short answer is anyone can be taught to be good at sales, but not everyone wants to be in sales for a long time. Okay, so like anyone can be good at it and be taught how to sell and how to be compelling and persuasive, but not everyone wants to build a career in that for the next 20 years. They're not going to enjoy it for 20 years, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yes. That's true.
I think it's a really great way to upskill yourself. What are some really great key tools to use if you want to upskill yourself in sales?
Practice it in life in general. Like practice with your friends, family, in conversation. So, for example, one of the skills we teach is like how to ask questions and active listening. So practice that when you're out for coffee with your friend, right? Like practice being more curious. So that's one thing you can do. Other thing is just read a lot. So like I can leave a reading and podcast list for you and anyone who's interested afterwards. I can share that with you guys. That's been something that's definitely helped me and a lot of the people we've coached. What else? Everyone hates this one, but listen to recordings of yourself like on the phone or in a sales presentation. Everyone hates this, but it's one of the best ways to improve. Okay. That was one of the things when I was selling software, like enterprise software, that I did a lot was listen to my sales presentations and sales demos. And I just watched these recordings and it was cringeworthy. It was absolutely horrible. Everyone hates watching themselves on camera. Well, most people do. Yeah. But it is one of the best ways you can improve.
Yeah.
Who's the best person that you've coached and why were they the best person? Names all the time.
A kid called Reed is probably one of the best people I ever coached. He's the first that came to mind, so he'd be up there. It was his first ever sales role, and he's going to do about $150,000, earn about $150,000 in his first ever job. He's like 23, and the reason he was so good is because he was very disciplined with his time and very structured and organized, but he was just always wanting to learn more. So like he was just always looking at how can I be better? What can I do? How can I improve this part of my sales process? How can I improve my calls? How can I improve my follow-up? Like he was just very methodical. And that was one of the reasons he progressed. I think one of the fastest I've ever seen is because he was just continually looking for things he could do better at. And I think that's like sales in general, right? It's like I don't think you can reach the pinnacle of selling. Like I think you can always be better. You could always improve a bit more. You can always cut how long it takes to do a deal, or increase your conversion rate, or improve your email outreach, or whatever it might be. Like there's always something you can do better.
Oh, absolutely. And for the end of the day, I have to self-confess, it just comes down to being so tired. You think, you can always reflect to do better. And quite often for me, it comes down to I'm just too tired to upskill myself. I'm too tired to do a lecture at the end of the day. So for me, it's a priority of making a priority to self-revise and do better.
Yeah.
And especially when you've got all different changes in society, like people are never going to respond to the same thing year after year, I guess. So yeah. A lot of what we talk about at Relab is really understanding your customer and what their needs are. I'm interested to know, what advice do you have for someone that might not be so forthcoming of information? And I can see that could be a problem in real estate if they're trying to, understand people's budgets, or find out their underlying reason for, why they're looking at a particular house, for example. What's your advice around that?
Really good question. I think there's a few things. I think the first one is mindset. You have to have this inevitable mindset that when you ask a question, you're going to get an answer to it, and an honest answer to it. I think it starts in here. I think a lot of people, especially with budget, they feel uncomfortable talking about money or uncomfortable asking about budget. So then the answers that, they bring their own negative preconception into the way they ask the question. So I think that's the first thing, is ask questions genuinely believing you're going to get an answer. And that starts up here. You would be amazed at what people will tell you if you ask it in the right way. God, like I've had conversations over Zoom with someone for 15 minutes, and I've heard about, like a startup, and I've heard about the problems they're having with their investors. They want to fire someone, blah, blah, blah. And like, they don't even know me. They literally just met me in that call. So, that's the first thing. And then I think the second thing is how you ask the question, like in terms of your tone of voice and your manner. I'm going to steal from Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. He talks about the late night FM DJ voice, which is this like really like calm, soothing, quite authoritative voice. So like practice that, and practice like how you actually deliver the questions. And then the third thing is, if you don't get the answer the first time, don't be afraid to ask again. So for example, if someone won't give you their budget the first time, just say, hey, look, the reason I'm asking for your budget, it's not because I'm trying to charge you the most. It's because I don't want to waste your time. I only want to show you stuff that's actually relevant to you, right? And make it about them. So don't be afraid to push back on someone if they don't give you a straight answer, or you think they haven't given you a full answer straight away. Probe a little bit. Sometimes even just pausing, right? So sometimes just like letting a bit of silence happen. They'll fill that silence with more. So you'll ask a question, they'll give you kind of like a half answer, and just look at them, pause, enjoy that silence, a little uncomfortable, and then they'll keep going and they'll fill it. So yeah.
And it's on a day-to-day basis. We call agents up. What's the best way to reach out to a cold lead? What's a really good approach?
I think there isn't one. I think you should use multiple channels and platforms. I don't think you should be overly reliant on one. So for example, some people are over reliant on phone, but they neglect email, text, and social media, for argument's sake. So I think you have to get good at using all of them, and actually use them all in conjunction. That's a bit of a non-answer, but that's my honest answer, is any kind of cold outreach should not just be done in one platform. You should be using multiple.
I read an article saying that cold calling was pretty much out of style. I was like, that's interesting, because I don't know, we talk about it a lot, and I feel like it's very common with real estate agents in particular as well. So I thought that was quite interesting.
It's definitely not out of style. Anyone who tells you that just sucks at cold calling, is my brutal answer. I have coached numerous reps. God, Chad is a good example, who has uncovered millions and millions and millions of software, dollars of software sales opportunities through cold calling. And he's navigated, calling big companies and having to navigate receptionists and multiple levels of an organization all through cold calling. So for anyone who's telling you it's dead is just not very good at it, they just should change their approach.
And what are some common mistakes you often see with salespeople?
Not asking enough questions, lack of discipline. So like not structuring their week right and making sure they actually have time and to do the things they should be doing. Or even just before that actually is starting with, here's my goal, and then reverse engineering the activity that they need to go away and do to actually get there, and thinking accurately about that process. That's actually probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see salespeople making, is not thinking accurately about what should they be doing Monday through Sunday or Monday through Friday or whatever days they want to work in a week. How should they actually be spending their time to hit the goals they want to achieve?
Yeah, that's so relevant. And what are the top things a real estate agent needs to include in their pitch?
When you say their pitch, in what respect?
I guess the initial point of contact, the initial meeting.
The initial meeting, as in they're trying to get a listing?
Yeah.
I would be asking a lot of questions and asking what the other person is looking for, and then I'd reverse engineer my pitch back to them with proof points and that prove my credibility and ability to deliver on that solution back to them. I think it's far better than coming in and just pitching, which I think what most people do wrong is they come in and just pitch without even understanding what the other person's looking for. So how do they know if they're pitching the right thing?
Yeah, totally. Knight's got a question here. Any advice on how to best handle objections?
Cool, that's a good question, Knight. Here's how most people do it wrong, and then so most people, when they get an objection, whatever it might be, will just throw back an answer. But like, no, it's not an objection because of blah, 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 blah. And they'll just throw back an answer. The problem with that is that you're not validating the other person's viewpoint or side. So the best way I've found to handle any kind of objection, and this works in like a personal argument with a partner or whatever as well, you can kind of use the same framework, is thank the person for raising the objection, whatever it is. Acknowledge, so you're acknowledging that you've heard them, so thank them. Empathize, and you can empathize using a phrase like, I can see why that might be a problem for you, or I can see why you feel that way, or why you're thinking that. Ask them some questions about where that's coming from. Usually 3 to 5 questions to kind of uncover, okay, what is the root cause of this objection? Like, where's it coming from? Repeat that back to them in your own words to make sure that you've understood them correctly. Once you've done that, then handle it. And when you're handling the objection, what you want to do is demonstrate that you've handled a similar objection for someone else before. So you wrap a kind of customer story around it. So yeah, that's the framework that I've found works best for 99.9% of objections. It's not foolproof. Sometimes, there are objections you can't handle, but if you go through that approach, you'll give yourself the best chance to handle every objection, or most objections you get. And the key is those first 3, is being thankful, empathetic, and asking questions and kind of like re-qualifying the objection. That's the key that most people miss, and they jump straight to the answer. Is that helpful? Yeah, feel, felt, found. I'm seeing a comment there. Feel, felt, found. Yeah, that's like often what they teach in like customer service reps. They often teach that. But what I've just described, I guess, is kind of like a slightly deeper version of feel, felt, found. But yeah, similar concept.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that. Bing and Vienna, I'd like to know your top tips on sales. One each.
Oh, for my personal point of view, I think to be honest, integrity. Is it right to say that? Yeah, integrity. Yes, because sometimes be a salesperson, especially for me, I think once you want to sell something, your customer will know that you try to sell, right? And to keep you always in, be honest, to be trust to your clients is really hard. Some integrity. Thanks, Lou. Yes. Yeah, but I think it's really important to build the known relationship, build the trust between you and your customer. It's a long-term kind of strategy or long-term thing. You have to just keep doing it.
I almost wish I didn't go last because we've had such great answers already. But for me, it's really two things. It's down to make sure you self-invest, even if you're tired at the end of the day. You may just learn one thing from a lecture, but that one thing could stick. So you all being here, you're already doing that to self-invest in yourself. And the other one is to measure success in different ways. We had a little project the other day at work where everyone had little post-it notes virtually, and we kind of said, what does success look at this company? And very few people wrote revenue. We would write long-term sustainability, but a lot of success was measured in other ways as to why we were here and what's our purpose. So even when you're in sales and you've got targets and goals, it's about the journey as well. So that's my two top tips.
Yeah, that's great. And another thing that we talk about a lot is jobs to be done. So really, really getting down to the nitty gritty of what your customer is after and what their purpose is for coming to you or using your product, or choosing, maybe they've chosen you as a real estate agent for a specific reason. I really like that. Was my next question for Alex. Oh no. Oh wow.
Sorry guys, my webcam, I don't know what's happened. I've been trying to fix it, but
we can still hear you.
You can still hear me at least. That's good.
Yeah, I think we've been talking too much, and and then I don't think Alice have finished their 5 things real estate agents can do to level up. So I'm still, very excited to hear about. The first thing is curious, right? And what's the last 4 things, Alex?
Last 4 things.
Yeah.
Goodness, it's a big number. Okay, so curiosity is definitely number 1. I'd say the second one is preparation. Like just make sure you're prepared for, if you're going into a meeting with someone, like do your homework, do as much homework as you can on it, or any kind of meeting in general is do your homework. I think the third one is, which I touched on already, is like getting really good at structuring your week. And making sure that, you use a calendar well, and you have enough time to make your outbound calls and do your BD every week, and that you're not neglecting it because you haven't figured out how you should set up a week. I think the fourth one is reverse engineer the actual number of activities and what activities you should be doing based on the goal you're trying to hit. So if you're trying to do, if you're trying to take home, I don't know, say $1 million, then how many calls do you need to do every single week to have enough potential clients in your pipeline to actually do that, right? And is that 4 or 5? Oh, last one is 5 is just always be improving. Just like keep working on getting better. Like you can never be too good.
Are you happy with those 5 things?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I am so struggled recently because it was New Year's come over and we started to do our strategies, and then I feel like my time as I didn't. Sometimes at the end of the day, I didn't do any sales activities every day, and So how, if I can't do those, like for cold calls, emails, and the conversation with our clients, how can we sell eventually? So yeah, that's really, really good tips for me. Thanks, Alex.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
There's a really good question from Knight here. How should a good salesperson spend on acquisition versus retention from a point of view of a real estate agent? Low transaction frequency, high transaction value per customer.
I think the honest answer there is it depends. So if you're right at the start of your career, you're going to obviously be doing a lot more acquisition than you are retention. If you're further along, you might have got things to a point where you have a lot of repeat customers or bigger customers who are, you're working with regularly. I think no matter where you are at, though, I think you should always be doing some acquisition. So even if you have a really good customer base, you should always be doing some acquisition, just as a risk mitigation strategy, if nothing else. And then what was the second part of that question? The frequency of transaction versus value.
Yeah.
Again, it depends, right? Like they're both strategies and they're both viable. You could get, again, I'll use that, say $1 million. You could get to $1 million through selling, I don't know, 100 lower value homes, or 10 really high value ones. Both are viable strategies. It just depends on, sorry, my math is terrible, so that probably doesn't add up. But anyway, you see the point I'm trying to make. So they're both viable strategies. It depends. What are you better at? Are you better at the fast transactional stuff, or are you better at, landing a few big whales a year?
I guess it's kind of like it's on a spectrum of, you might have to adjust depending on where you are in your journey. And another question from Chanel. With the increased use of Zoom opposed to traditional face-to-face, what advice or tips can you suggest to improve the quality of the meeting when you can't meet in person?
Good question. And I realize the irony right now is my video camera has failed in answering it. But the first part of my answer is have your video on. I think that always helps. I think you just have to work a little bit harder when you're on Zoom, or on the phone. Is you have to take control of the meeting and be a bit. I think you have to be more structured in terms of how you structure the conversation. And I always recommend you take control of the meeting a little bit more forcefully, I suppose. You also have to work a bit harder at building rapport over Zoom or the phone. It's a bit easier over a coffee or in person. You just have to work that little bit harder. Make sure you look at the camera as much as possible. All of those kind of basics. And then also follow through, and this is more in general, actually, sales advice, but follow through. If you say you're going to follow up on a Monday, make sure you follow up on Monday. Don't follow up on Tuesday. Just the basics of building trust. Because if you lose it and you've never met that person, it's harder to rebuild. Whereas if when you're in person, it's usually smaller things like that can maybe be forgiven when you know the person, you've had coffee with them and had lunch with them.
Yeah, totally. And I've got one last question. So if anyone's got any more questions please put them in the chat. But how much time, this might be a bit of an ambiguous question, but how much do you spend time on building relationships rather than trying to really push for a sale or close a deal quickly?
I think you can do both. I don't think that you can close a deal and still build a relationship with someone, and vice versa. So yeah, I don't think you have to sacrifice one for the other.
Cool. And a question from Lou. How do you know when it's time to quit the chase?
Oh God, honestly, I almost don't think you should quit the chase, because there's been Knight says never quit the chase. I agree. There's been too many examples through my own career where, it's taken me 6 or 12 months to get a meeting, and then suddenly they're a really big customer. Like it literally happened it happened this week, where it was someone I'd been kind of courting for 18 months and then finally got a call with them. So yeah, it's never is the answer. Or maybe, I don't know, if they tell you to leave, if they say leave me alone, then perhaps take the hint. But even then, that you can respectfully push back if you genuinely think you can help them.
But sometimes really, because what if people just don't come back to you, and even you've done all the calls, texts, emails, everything?
Pop them on a marketing nurture. Put them in a marketing nurture campaign, and you know what? Maybe when the time is right. It depends on the situation, like specifically what you should do. But in general, I don't think you should ever give up, especially if you believe in what you're doing and what you're capable of and the results you've had before, and that you genuinely think, hey, look, I can help you. I can help this person. Then why would you give up if you genuinely believe you could help them?
Yeah, Knight said there will always be a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, being in Vienna, just because we are talking to some real estate agents on the call today, do you want to quickly take us through a couple of features on Relab that you think suited the best to real estate agents?
We've got free trials, so if you're curious enough, I'm sure Lou or Knight can share a free trial link for you to test it out. But my favorite tool on Relab is the mapping tool. And what I found that actually something could help agents at the moment is actually our resource and building consents layer on our map. So at the moment on my Facebook, I'm getting 10s, 20s, 30s every day of agents offering appraisals to me. And it's so great and convenient. You can just click on one and get a free appraisal. But how do you know which one? It's not very targeted. So when you use the building and resource consents one, you can actually target certain people because if someone's renovating their property, they're going to be interested in what their current property is worth and an appraisal for what it will be worth. So you can actually use that layer really, really well to target specific people and areas. And also get your pre-sales and marketing strategy for new builds. So that's my favorite thing on the mapping. And another part of it is recent listings. So as a recent home, this is our first home, we just purchased it. I've read through a lot of CMAs. And if you don't know this area, houses with a picture or a description, it doesn't take you very far in seeing the neighborhood. So we have a little helicopter view where you can actually see recently sold houses and current on the market. And it's just a really simple thing, but it can take you so far in just seeing the bigger picture. And you can not only do that in a base map, but we've got it in a satellite view. So even for the potential vendor, they can kind of pick up which houses they were. And if we have time, another tool I really like that has actually been given to us back from agent feedback is you can now customize our reports. So we realize that branding is really important for individual agents because your branding is important, but also it's your own business. You are so much more when you have your own image out there. So we've created customized options. And included in that, not only can you put your logo, your name, your client's name, you can actually change the property valuation and rental valuations because sometimes situations change. And although we provide unbiased data, sometimes situations are completely out of our control. And we realize that there's a bit of liability when you hand over that information. So we've made it that you can customize those options. Now, Bing, I'll pass it to you.
I think my favorite part is about definitely subdivision calculator, because we are on the way of urbanization, right? So I think the topic most talk with my clients is about development. So how can you find out the potential of land, and then have a meaningful conversation with your clients? It's using our subdivision calculator tool, as well as a planning report to give you heaps of information and save you lots of time, to help you work smarter, not work harder. And then with your special custom sales skills, that you can have a meaningful conversation with your clients. And then next one will be, we do have another advanced search insight, which is a really, really cool prospecting tool to help you narrow down the addresses in a specific suburb to meet your client's requirement. So this is really, really helpful. Yeah, that's the two features I highly recommend that.
Cool, thank you for that. I've just got one last question for Alex, actually, that's slightly off topic, but just because we are a startup, Relab's a startup, I'm just interested to know, how are you navigating running a startup at the moment? How's it going?
Oh, it's been going really well. Thanks for asking. Yeah, look, we've got awesome customers like Canon New Zealand and EasyVet and Parkable that we're working with, who we're really helping, and the results are great to see. Reps that are just ramping up quicker, performing better than their existing teams. They're asking us now to train their existing teams, which is cool. So yeah, things are good. Obviously it's not all roses there with startup. It's long hours and there's ups and downs, and we, for example, we lost an employee recently because she had to go back to the UK, so that wasn't ideal, but overall it's awesome. And I think the thing that keeps us going, that keeps me and Scotty going on this journey, is that we see how it's helping both our clients, but then also a lot of these people we're training, and how their lives are improving too, and their careers and their wallets, which is nice to them as well.
Yeah, cool, amazing.
But because I really admire real estate agents before. I wish I can become a real estate agent, because they like heaps of money. But after after a while, when I talk with so many agents, I realize it's not only about sales. They are like, they start their own business, so they cover all the costs of them, and then they have to learn how to do marketings on Facebook, how to do marketings on different platforms, and they also need to find the customers and do customer services. So I feel like this, how come one person can be, it's like a startup. Yeah, so I think from another way, I saw many real estate agents work so hard. They work on early in the morning and late in the evening, and even on weekends. So yeah, so I think it's not easy to become a successful person. You have to work really hard, and also as well as work smarter. Just add one more tips on that.
I completely agree with you, Bing. And I'm sure you'll appreciate, as a home buyer from last year as well, that you've got someone on the phone 24/7. 9 p.m. they're messaging you. Our keys were handed over for our property inspection at like 7 p.m. It's a 24-hour clock, which I admire you guys, because I'm tired at 5 o'clock. I'm very tired. So yeah, we appreciate you guys.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I will wrap up here. Thank you for everyone attending. You will receive a recording of the webinar shortly after this ends, just in case you've missed anything, or you want to listen back on it at a later time, you can do so. And yeah, thank you so much, Alex, for coming on today. We really appreciate it, and I think we all learned something anyway.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. And thanks, Bing and Vienna, for joining me on today.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at our next webinar.
Cool. Talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.